What's up everyone, David here, welcome back to MixFest TV. Hope you guys are having a great day. So, we are talking about two-bus compression in this video, and specifically we're talking about settings. Before we start, as usual, check the info box down below for free plugin special discounts and offers, especially right now around Black Friday. If you want to book mix and mastering with me, go to the website mixfesttv.com, and there you can also find all the mix and mastering courses. If you want to access the exclusive library of in-depth mixing and mastering videos here on YouTube, click the join button, become a MixFest TV member. Alright, so two-bus compression and settings. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I am a slow attack guy. My two-bus compressor is very often a VCA SSL style compressor. I have several. Usually I switch between the NG bus, West Audio, or the Dangerous. Those are my two main VCA two-bus compressors, and that's for anything rock, metal, industrial, EDM, usually dance, and most pop. For ballads or genres that are a little more mellow, I usually switch topology, and it can be my 670, it can be the Gain Lab Dictator, or the NG Tube Comp by West Audio. Long story short, regardless of the topology, my attack on the two-bus compressor is always on the slow side. 15 milliseconds, 20, 30 milliseconds. That's my go-to. That's how I mix into my two-bus compressor. This is very important. So for me, the transient passes. Actually, my two-bus compressor enhances the transients, and it serves as a glue, okay? Fast release, usually ratio is, most times is 4, sometimes it's 2 if I don't want to be too grabby, and I tend to gravitate around 2 to 3 dB of compression on the two-bus. Sometimes I push a little harder on heavy genres and go up to 4 or 5. This is usually my go-to. Sidechain is very high on my two-bus compressor. I usually want the mid-range and the top end to trigger the compressor and not the low end, which if I have some type of problem controlling it, I usually, patch in a multi-band compressor for that. And very rarely I used in the past fast attack on two-bus compression. I did use it, but it's very rare. And this video was inspired because I had a conversation with a fellow mixing engineer, big engineer. He does a lot of rock and metal, and he has the opposite approach. He uses an extremely fast attack on VCA compressors. And I thought this would make a good video, and we are going to do audio examples, because this, what could be seen as a small detail, just simply one setting, the attack of your compressor, changes dramatically the way you mix, the way you approach the mix from the beginning, and the way you think and use two-bus compressor. And this is interesting because we are both working fairly successful mixing engineers. We have totally different approaches, and not one is better than the other. We just mix things differently because of the two-bus settings, and because we both start, as many engineers, we both start with the two-bus compressor on, at least after, the gain staging and the first rough balance of the mix. So let's go to Pro Tools, and let's start with how I use my two-bus compressor and my settings. You can see it on the screen. We are using the NG bus, so we have the plugin control. This is a very simple rock mix, just guitars, bass, and drums. And you can see my settings: 15 milliseconds attack, 0.1 release. My sidechain is a 150, so nothing, well, almost nothing triggers the compression below 150. You can see the sidechain graphic up there. Is in feed-forward mode, and I'm using 4 ratio. I'm making up the gain 2 dB just as much as I'm compressing with a little THD. So this is the mix. This is the chorus part without my compression. So I want you to pay attention. You can rewind the video and pay attention to the snare. My two-bus compressor enhances the transient. It makes the snare snappier, the kick snappier, and any transient bass element more up and front. That's what a slow attack does. The fast release makes everything punchy and in your face. So this is why you have this push, okay? I know that this is the effect that my two-bus compressor does. The way he does it, and what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna copy this and put it on the B settings here on the NG bus. He does the opposite. He keeps his attack at 0.1, 0.3. We're just gonna use the extreme 0.1 here, and then we'll try 0.3, just so you can hear the difference. And he compresses the same amount that I do, right? So right now I need to adjust the threshold so we hit that 2-3 dB to get the same gain reduction. But there's one thing that we're gonna do later that really shows what a massive difference this one change does to your mix. Okay, we are at the same. Okay, so I'm gonna A-B. A is my settings, and B is his settings, right? Okay, what happens is the snare, it's what triggers most of the compression, right? So you can hear that the mix does this every single time that the snare hits. And also we are losing punch and snap on the snare because the compression chokes it, right? So you would think like, why would you do that, right? And that's also why I like the slow attack. You do this because you mix knowing that that's exactly what the compressor will do to your mix and to your transient. So I mix in a way where my snare is where I like it, and then I know that the more I'll push into my 2-bus compressor, the more snap I'll get out of all the transient element in the mix. He does the opposite. He will mix with the snare 2-3 dB louder than he wants because the 2-bus compressor will choke it. And also he personally likes the effect that the mix falls back every time the snare hits. I am not sure if I like that, although the mix we were looking at was more metal than rock, so it makes more sense for that genre. But I'm open my mind to that kind of aesthetic. That's why I think this video is gonna be interesting, because like, hey, even after all these years, I'm opening to other things, and I thought this could be a cool thing to show you, because if you have any of my mixing courses or have seen my mixing breakdown or anything else, you've probably only seen the slow settings on my 2-bus compressor, and this is an interesting different approach. So let's go to the snare, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna A-B this, so I'm gonna just do this. This is my snare. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a trim plug in here, and I'm gonna up the snare, let's say 2.8 dB, right? So let's make a difference. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep this up here, and I'm gonna bypass it when I go from A to B. That sounds like a good idea on how to balance the two and how to A-B this thing. It's not gonna be immediate, but close enough, all right? So I'm gonna now adjust my threshold on the B setting, so with the snare louder, it's probably gonna compress a little more. Not really, we are there. Okay, let's do this. So this is me, my slow attack transient passes, and B with the trim is the other approach. You know, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It is definitely a sound, is that sound of I obviously hear compression, right, on the mix. Is definitely a sound that we can associate with heavier genres than this, so metal. And I kind of like it, to be honest. What happens, if you notice, is we lose a little bit, in this case, we lose a little bit too much of the mono dry snare, and the room comes out a little too much, right? So it's a little too roomy, and that would need to be changed. What would need to be done here is rebalance the dry mono snare with the room and overhead. So I would probably go here. Let's see if we can find it, if we can find the drum. I actually have a snare room, which is this. Snare rooms. So we're gonna trim down this about 3 dB. Maybe this is too much, but I'm just gonna try. And 3 dB the room number 2 and see how it goes. And I'm gonna leave the overhead right there. So actually only the room, I have 2 channels of, these 2 channels are just for the snare room. Let's go back to the 2 bus compression. Let's see how we sound with this. So we have everything in place. It's interesting. It's interesting. I kind of like it. Let's try 0.3, which are more his settings that, you know, for that song. So there's a big difference between not a big difference, a noticeable difference between 0.1 and 0.3, definitely. But still, it's a totally different aesthetic for the entire mix. There's one difference here. I feel my settings are more natural. Everything is more open, obviously. And it's a little less obvious, the compression, but also less nervous, just the overall behavior and feeling and vibe of the compression. But definitely the biggest difference is I want the mix to feel compressed and smashed. And it's a cool aesthetic. I like it, to be honest. I'm not sure, I'm definitely sure I wouldn't use it on everything, but for something that is hard and heavy, that makes total sense. I kind of like the aesthetic. I really like it, and I'm gonna experiment with it and see how many times I end up using it. This is in feed forward. I wanna try and do a copy of this, of the B, put it in C, and do a feedback. Yeah, definitely not. The feedback is not an option for this. The feedback is definitely, it is not good. It's too mellow. You see that the kick still triggers the compression, and it doesn't glue and doesn't groove well. This is a trick that is done and works, in my opinion, only with a feed-forward VCA style compression. It's very interesting. I want to know what you guys think. Which one do you prefer? What are your usual settings for Attack on Two Bus? And I want to hear everything in the comments down below. It's kind of funny and interesting how not only we learn from others, but how our aesthetic changes over time, right? I kind of want to say that at the beginning of my career, I was more I was using more often a fast attack, but that's because I was dumb and I was trying to use the 2-bus compressor as a limiter because I, didn't know how to handle crest factor. I mean, we were talking about decades ago, but still, there is something to be said for the fast attack used in this way. Sidechain is key because if I do this and I remove the sidechain, we're choking the low end all together, right? With the sidechain, the kick and the bass still hit and they're like blooming. It's kind of cool. I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. Comment down below. Consider using the super thanks or grab some merch if you want to support the channel. If you want to book mix and mastering with me, go to the website mixfesttv.com. In there you can also find all the mix and mastering courses and click the join button, become a member, access all the exclusive videos here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Stay safe. See you next time.